All right, Colin Plume, self-made millionaire tips, owner of Noble Gold Investments, My Digital Money. I'm a new partner, two new businesses I can't disclose. One I can disclose, a hot sauce business that I'll be getting into later. My wife's obsessed with hot sauce, and so we dove into something a little bit different, which is kind of like my guest, Bennett. uh you were in the solar business, right? You had a solar business, and then now you're in the cookie business. So it's where, paths are going in different directions. Tell me a little bit about solar and what happened there, and then how'd you fall into the sweet tooth cookie business?
Yeah, solar. Before doing that, I was just doing door-to-door sales, which is very popular in Utah. So you'd leave for a summer, you go knock doors 4 to 5 months in a different state selling pest controls, probably a really
The
popular,
number one.
or security systems, satellite TV, like direct TV, and
Right.
then solar kind of was a little bit newer. So I started with pest control. I mean, I did all three of those, and then I moved into solar. And after a summer, I was like, this is great. This is super fun. I was in California, and you're always cutting somebody's electricity bill in half with $0 down. So it's just like an easy sell.
Right.
You make good money, 5, 10 grand, a system that you would kind of install. So my brother said, hey, why are you knocking doors? How about, we knock doors online per se. So that's what we started doing is, we kind of teamed up and we said, let's do this online. And we put out some ads, and we are still knocking doors, and we still had, door to door force going. Um, but yeah, we started doing Facebook ads, hired some people overseas out of the Philippines that would set the appointments up, kind of had an automated system as soon as the lead came in, that they would be getting automated text messages and calls, with a minute of that lead coming in. So yeah.
And is that business still? Are you still involved with that business today? Is it still? Is that something you're doing, or do you? I thought maybe you'd sold some of that business
Yeah,
off.
yeah, I sold it about two
Okay.
years ago, and that's when
Okay.
I dove in full time to Dirty Dough. So it wasn't that long, really, from kind of that first recruit, first employee till selling was only 18 months.
Oh
Uh,
wow, that is fast.
it was pretty quick, yeah. But I already knew, how to sell solar, so now it was just kind of doing it for myself.
Right. Right. So selling door to door, what do you think that experience added to when you went digital? What were some of the things that kind of brought? Obviously, there's the fear of probably knocking on doors, and you got past that. So
Yeah.
but what do you think? How do you think that translated into the door to door to the actual, like, going on Facebook and trying to convert leads that way?
Yeah, I mean, I can go knock 10 doors and get 10 different objections and then craft my pitch on the next door to overcome that. So, in real time, you knock a door, somebody opens up and they see you in California, you're knocking solar, and they're like, is this solar? You're the fifth guy. Or you can
Right.
knock the door and say, hey, I know I'm probably the fifth guy that's knocked on your door this week. You're no longer going to get that objection, right? So, you kind of get real time feedback in how to craft your pitch in order to kind of eliminate or tackle the objections before they arise. In digital marketing, kind of the same thing, but you have to put a lot of money behind it. Which ad is going to work better. But I already knew the messaging from knocking hundreds of doors. I knew
Right.
exactly what was going to work and what wasn't working. So I think it allowed me to craft that message and get better ads and better ROIs on that a lot quicker because I already knew what the objections were, from going door to door.
What was your acquisition cost on a converted lead uh, for solar at that time?
Um, Anything under $1,000 we were happy about because you're
Yeah.
making about 10 grand a deal
Yeah.
uh, overall, right? So, and at times it would be a little bit more than that. At times it'd be a little bit less than that, but we were always shooting for 800 to $1,000.
Wow. No, that's a great margin. Obviously, you got to pay salespeople, good amount to get them excited, but still there's plenty of room there. It's a one-time sale, right? With solar, you're not going to get another. So it's a big sale, but it's a one-time sale.
Correct.
Yeah, got it. So you scaled that business and Facebook, and then did someone come to you about buying you out, or did you just realize, like, hey, it's getting competitive, maybe it's a good time to get out? How did that sort of strategy come into play?
Yeah, honestly, I'd already purchased Dirty Dough from someone else, and it just kind of somebody's just said, hey, somebody's trying to buy my solar company. I have a lot of salespeople, but I don't have kind of that the operational support. I know your business has really good operational support. Can we kind of package our companies together and then sell it to this publicly traded company?
Mm.
So, and I kind of ignored it. I was like, dude, this guy's blowing smoke. Not even interested. And then he ended up meeting my brother randomly at some conference, and then he pitched my brother. My brother's like, no, we got to listen to it. So yeah, what wasn't kind of in the plans, but because I'd already bought Dirty Dough and I was trying to now be an owner of two different companies that are very different. Um, yeah, when I got the opportunity, I was like, okay, let's do it. If I could focus solely on just Dirty Dough, that'll give me a better lifestyle, hopefully, because I was I was working too much and getting way too stressed, super
Sure.
overweight, and yeah, no, I'm super grateful that that opportunity presented itself.
So you sell it for the solar business for a few $1 million, and you're like, great, now I got a little money in the bank. Now it's like full-time Dirty Dough. And I mean, talk about two totally different businesses. I guess some components, the marketing component is there's some comparison, and my team and I, before we met, we looked at your website, and it's that website. I mean, you can't take your eyes off that. I mean, watching this, the chocolate, and I mean, it's a stellar job on that website. I love what you did there. Visually just over the top, and fantastic. So you get into this Dirty Dough business. I mean, how did this come about? What's the opportunity? Why do you think this is the next thing to be Crumble, or one of the big ones that are out there?
Yeah, well, I had the solar company and it was going good, and we scaled pretty quickly. But most of the people we were working with were 1099 contractors. So it's like you gain 5 sales guys and then lose 3, and then gain 10 and then lose 8. And I just felt like it was pretty kind of walking on eggshells. And I couldn't see myself becoming really a national brand. Where I did see Crumble, they're based out of Utah. That's where I'm from, and some other companies. And it just that franchise opportunity, which was very foreign to me, was very attractive because it's like, oh, these guys built a national brand in just a few years by leveraging franchise partners.
Mm-hmm.
So when the opportunity came, it was something they went to high school with. He started Dirty Dough, moved to Arizona, started going to high school, started Dirty Dough, posts on Facebook that he's looking for an investor to open up the first storefront. So I invested with him in 2019, and then started my solar company in 2020, or before COVID. At the end of 2020, that's when Dirty Dough, I'm like, hey, let's franchise this. I'm going to be your first franchisee. And at the very end, he said, you know what, I'm done. This is too much. I want to sell it. I want to get out. So I ended up
He
buying it.
didn't want to stay in the business that he built.
Yeah, he didn't want to stay in it.
Interesting. Didn't have just too much. There's too much of stress of owning a business, or
Yes.
so you're in Dirty Dough, and you're the guy that started Dirty Dough decides he wants to get out of the business. He can't stomach it anymore, and you have an opportunity to buy it, right? I mean, that's sort of how it went.
Exactly. And I just listened to a podcast that said true wealth is created by buying real estate and businesses. And I had
Mhm.
maybe a handful of properties at the time, just single family, kind of, I was investing passively. Never even thought about buying a business. So I thought, what the hell? I mean, I'm gonna roll the dice. Never worked in food. But I have had the mentality of what are other people doing that I can't learn? Whether that's me personally or hire somebody that knows what they're doing, like pretty much everything is replicable if you follow the same systems and processes. So I just thought, if I can take this business, figure out the pain points as to why he wants to sell, which were kind of high labor, high waste, low profit margins, fix those issues, then can I scale it and have other people want to buy into the same business?
Mm-hmm. And when you talk to other people before you bought it, what were they saying about this? Like, obviously with food, and you get the same, don't do it. Like, did you get a lot of that from friends or people around you, naysayers, so to speak?
I don't know if I even talked to anybody about it. I was just like, I'm going to do it.
Oh, really? Okay. So
Uh,
this is a quick and dirty, right? I mean, you just went
but
after it.
yeah, it was kind of like the opportunity presented itself, and I bought it in less than a month.
Wow.
It was pretty quick. Now, I don't know if I would have I already got that before. I was going to, I was a semester away from graduating, um, I guess just with pre-med, before dropping out to go knock doors, over the
Oh,
summer, and then switching different industries and this and that. Um, People stopped giving me their advice because they knew I didn't take it, I guess.
wow. You weren't going to
I was
listen.
like, I'm doing whatever, right? But at the same time, because I did drop out of school, and my thought was, I'm going to go to another, at least 4 years of school plus your residency to maybe make $250,000 a year after amounting, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
Right.
Well, I could already make $250,000 a year in 4 or 5 months knocking doors. So,
Mhm.
and then I did it for several years. So, and then I kind of feel like people saw that it was succeeding, and then, it was like, oh, he's going to go figure it out.
Well, and
So
if you're not, if it wasn't your passion, right? If it, I think most people become doctors, like it's, so obviously the money's an aspect of it too, but I think you really have to like, that has to be something that you like want to dedicate your life to, because it is so hard. It takes over your life. Going to business, big risk, big reward, and also probably better quality of life, longevity wise, you can create a good life. And, I know you have, young children, and so that probably is appealing too. I want to have a family and I want to be able to see them and, do all those things too. So you get into Dirty Dough, and after you buy it quick, sounds like you probably got a good deal too, which is great. So what's like first month, like when you take over, like what do you what are the big pain points that you see in the business, and how did you try to fix them as quickly as possible?
yeah, the big pain point was labor. Labor was just super, super high. Um, and yeah, this was in January, and by February, I had a second location open up in San Diego. So what I did is I was like, I just want to figure it all out and be hands on. Um, so we found you can rent these commercial kitchens, so they're fully equipped, and then you just pay an hourly rate to use all
Mhm.
of the equipment, and then you just do delivery only. So yeah, February I already had a store open to kind of figure out, because I'm in San Diego and there's only one store. This is in Arizona, so I'm like, I want one in my backyard so I can kind of figure it out. So first things first was, how do we reduce staffing, which was pretty easy. The biggest thing is you're mixing relatively small batches, maybe 65 cookies in a big mixer, and then you weigh it by hand. So it's like, well, how do we take out that time to weigh everything by hand? So we started
Right.
looking at machines, and we were like welding these different metal contraptions that would like come apart, then you put together, then you stuff the dough in, so you don't have to manually, weigh it all. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of let's start experimenting. Let's start talking to other people that have already been there. Let's look at other existing cookie companies that have been around for decades. And there's really two: Great American Cookie Company and Mrs. Fields, both started in 1977. What do? They don't make cookies at every single location. They make their cookies in large facilities, mass produce everything, machine portion it, then ship out this product to each franchise or each store to be baked fresh on site. So I knew that's what I wanted to do, because that's what other people have been doing that have been around for decades. And that was going to be and is our competitive advantage over somebody such as a Crumble when they're still doing everything by hand. You look at the margins and they're just not, it's not a sustainable model in my opinion.
Right.
All the numbers that they've released. So it was just getting this gourmet cookie that's blowing up right now, big thanks to Crumble, like these multi-flavored, serve fresh, delivered to your door, hot, all of that. But being able to use the back end processes of these other companies that have been around for over 4 decades, kind
Right.
of marrying two models together.
Yeah. And so it's franchisees that are, having these locations. So if someone goes to a website, they're actually baking the cookie in the store and then they're going to deliver it. Is that how your model works, or how does that
Yeah,
happen?
most of it is foot traffic. So maybe depending on the store, 70, 80% are people just walking in, and the other 20, 30%, sometimes a little bit less depending on the location, it's DoorDash, Uber Eats, things like that. So we're producing all of the cookies here in Utah, and it'll be like a very unique 3-layer cookie. So you look at the dough, it looks like a peanut butter dough, but on the inside there's chocolate, and in the very center there's hot fudge. So we use very specialized machines to make these 3-layer cookies. We ship that out to the franchisees. Now franchisees, they don't need mixers. They don't need large, square feet to store raw ingredients. They don't need to train anybody on mixing times and measuring flour and thawing the butter properly. All you're doing is grabbing a cookie dough ball and putting it in the oven and pressing start. Every cookie is the same time, temperature, band speed. Um, and then once it's baked, put it in a box, give it to the customer. So you really only need one employee. You really only need, less than 1,000 square feet to operate out of. So it's just really trying to simplify everything to bring down our break-even point as low as possible. And then also, give franchise owners the ability to have maybe a little bit of freedom in their life. Like a Crumble, you have to have 60 to 80 employees, and they require you typically to be owner operated. So you're in that store 60 hours a week. It's like, not everybody wants to do that.
Sure. So the stores can be small.
Yep.
You've created all the branding in the store. They just kind of follow a certain model that you have. So less than 1,000 square feet. But they got to be in high traffic areas. So there's some of this rent in some of these areas. It's pretty high, probably like $5 to $8, $9, $10 a foot. So it's small but expensive rent, and hopefully high traffic, right? They're connected to a mall, or they're in a big shopping center. What areas do you think have you seen really explode? What stores do better than other stores, and why do you think those locations are doing better than other locations?
I mean, yeah, heavy foot traffic all day. And then heavy foot traffic, if you compare it with, are you across the street from a Costco or Target? Because that's our same target demographic.
Mm.
Somebody's picking up groceries and they pick up some cookies for the family on the way up. So yeah, you do want to go in those higher foot traffic areas, which are more expensive. So do you want to pay $2,000 at a higher, or do you want to pay for 2,000 square feet at a higher rent, or only 1,000? So it really gives you a competitive advantage because you can get better locations or similar locations for lower cost.
Right.
We also do mobile franchising. So like think of a food truck or food trailer, which is awesome because now you're not waiting for people to come to you, you're going to them. And some of those, if you go to the right events, I think we have a Formula One event that we're going to next week in Texas that'll have, hundreds of thousands of people. And it's like you could do more at one event that you do in several days to a few weeks if you're running those mobile franchises. And then you don't have to, worry about the lease payments and the 10-year guarantees and all of that. So
Sure.
we're trying to provide options to our franchisees, depending on, risk level, capital that they have and are willing to deploy, things like that.
Who's your in the space for a franchisee? Like, who's your big competitor? Who are you competing with? I know Mrs. Fields does it also, but who's like the big competitors in your space for what you're doing?
Crumble's the largest right now because we're in that gourmet cookie space. So Mrs. Fields still has, a few hundred stores. Insomnia has a few hundred stores. Great American Cookie Company has a few hundred stores. They all have very similar models to each other, which is kind of a plain cookie, maybe a dozen or two flavors at a time, where you have like Crumble, or there's another one called Crave or Chip. You kind of have Crumble at 900 locations, and then everybody else, at like 10 to 25 locations. We're at 37, I believe. So we're kind of second place, and we're have another, I don't know, 56, I think, that are under construction right now. And we've sold several hundred franchises, but it's kind of Crumble and then us, and then a handful of other, smaller companies that are in this gourmet cookie space. Your cookies are typically a third of a pound. There's some sort of planned rotation, whether it's weekly or monthly, and you have a more limited time offer. So maybe you're carrying 6 to 8 flavors, but they're constantly rotating, and then they're being baked fresh every hour, and they're also served warm.
Oh, wow, that's great. So Dirty Dough, so you're looking for franchisees, people that are interested in this, but your value prop is different in that, ideally if one person can be in the store, someone could buy this franchisee. It's what, 250,000 or something, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, that I would say that's about average. It depends on construction costs and things like that, but that's about it.
So what the 250 includes them actually the store being built and having an actual location?
Yeah, I would say 250 to maybe 280 is kind of all in cost.
Oh,
Now
wow.
some
Okay.
go lower, some go higher, but it's you pay a franchise fee, you pay for equipment, you pay for your construction cost, your signage, your opening inventory, your permits, uh, drawings. Yeah, that kind of encompasses all of those
Do
costs.
they have to have that amount of money or can they finance some of it also?
They could do financing, a decent portion of them. So SBA, they really like franchises because it's there's a track record, right?
Yeah.
So
Repeatable
yeah,
business.
so people put $50,000 down, and then the SBA will give them another 2 to 300,000, depending on how capitalized they want to be. Um, and we have a really good preferred SBA lender that's had like a 90, 5+% success rate on funding franchises pretty quickly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, part of the mission on what we're doing is trying to lower the barrier of entrepreneurship to help more people get into business and empower them through owning their own business, right? So, how do you do that? Well, you have to lower the the skill required to run a franchise. You don't have to be a baker anymore. The capital required, it's already less than a half of a crumble. But then you factor in an SBA loan. You can get in with 50 cash, and just making it easier overall to be able to run.
Yeah, no, it's great. I talk about it a lot and in my business, one of the businesses I have is a precious metals business. And I talk about, the idea that if you buy gold and then let's say later you want to use some of that gold. And I always say like, the nice thing about gold is liquid. And if you wanted to go out and start a business, so I always use this example for people that are saving money or starting to, and they, if you give it to your kids or you have this, precious metals, and then later, you're probably going to have to find an opportunity to own your own business because this is the way things are going. I mean, the great jobs that used to be there, the six-figure jobs, most of those are going away. I mean, you can see it all across tech layoffs, everything that's happening. Those jobs are kind of gone. And that's really the jobs that people are looking to get to have that quality of life. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. So 50 down, let's say they do the rest in SBA. What's the, obviously no guarantees, but what are some of the projections on that 50K? Like what kind of return is someone going to see in potential return in owning Dirty Dough?
Yeah, and that's going to be very between region, and but really that's just a maybe a better way to protect myself. So franchising, it's all governed by the FTC, and you get one chance a year to disclose whatever financials you choose to disclose, and that's the only thing you can talk about is what's on your franchise disclosure documents in section or item 19.
Okay.
So I'm limited on all of that. What we do is when people are interested, we do weekly what we call validation calls, where they're connected in group calls with existing franchisees. And franchisees can share whatever they want.
Sure. Okay. So that's good. So they can, and actually, to be honest, that's better, to
It is
hear.
better. I mean, you're going to want to talk with somebody that's actually operating the business to get not only the pros, but also the cons. It's like, yeah, these guys are doing all of this work for me. So all I have to do is put a cookie puck in the oven. But XYZ, it didn't happen, or my internet, or whatever, and it's like there's still growing pains. And it's good to get that from somebody actually in it with us, that's buying a franchisee that's invested rather than just, corporate maybe giving you a one-sided story.
Right. So if I was an investor, if I wanted to buy one, could I have a conversation with a franchisee before I make a purchase to get
Yeah, that's what we want, all of them, and multiple
fantastic?
franchises. So in that sales process, you're getting invited to calls with existing franchisees as well as having access to recorded calls. But we want to make sure that anybody who's buying a franchise talks with not only one but multiple existing franchisees.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think that takes away a lot of the fear for an investor to be able to go in and talk to an operator to know what it's really happening day to day.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, when you sold your solar business, you had this guy come to you and go, "Hey, I want to pair up and sail." Probably in your head thinking to yourself, he's probably trying to get some intel from me, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now, when you're doing this kind of business and you're recruiting people, the nice thing is that you can open it up and let franchisees talk to them, and they can hear about the pros and the cons and the pitfalls. Because obviously, anytime you make an investment, you want to try to gather as much information as you can as you're building it out. So you have 37. That's amazing. And a few hundred more, you said you've already sold contracts on a few hundred more of these?
Done, I don't know, between 370 and 390-ish. I don't know. I've lost track on them, but yeah, so those will be developed over the next few years. So what most people are doing is buying 3 to 5 franchises, and then they have 2 to 5 years, whatever the timeline is that we negotiate to develop those.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, you're gonna just get busier and busier here over the next few years.
Don't remind me. I already feel like I'm very busy.
Yeah. I mean, but hopefully, you get a lot of strong operators and they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I think that's, sort of the idea of this model, right? That you take a little bit of the work. How do you deal with your day-to-day, having a family, mental health? What are some of the tricks or things that you do to try to balance your life a little bit as a growing and very successful entrepreneur? What are some of the things that you try to balance to give you some rooting in day-to-day life?
Yeah, when I sold the solar company, and I felt great, and I still have the dirty dough, but I'm like, man, I'm gonna let my foot off the pedal, right? Because now I have more residual, I have some cash, I have this and that. And within a week or two, I realized that I didn't. I was working the nights and the weekends. So that kind of caused me to do some good inner work on like, what am I even doing this for? What's the point of being an entrepreneur? What's the point of selling a business? What's the point of making money? And it did come down to, well, I want to live a more happy and more joyful life. Um, and I want to have it now rather than what I feel like we do as entrepreneurs is I'm going to be happier when I have $1 million, two
Right.
million, or when my business does 1 million in a month, or that whatever that is, and you get the dopamine rush and you go to the next thing. So
Sure.
I was kind of recognized that when I sold the solar company, which is about 2 years ago. And I'm 30 now, so I was only 28 then, and I really like laid down what the mission statement was, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And it did come down to joy and fulfillment. So, and I get that from my family. So I do pretty damn well at not working past 5 and not working the weekends. But I'll still do sprints. Like if we're capital raising on the corporate side, like we just started a month ago, then it's like, hey, it's going to be a few weeks of a sprint that I am working extra time, but my wife knows that I'm going to come back to kind of normal. And
Yeah.
in order to do that, I've also I hired a CEO as soon as we started franchising, somebody that's been doing this for 40 years. Her company was called Maui Wowie Smoothies and Coffee. She grew it to over 700 open franchise
I know
locations.
it. I know it. Yeah, I know that. I've heard that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hired her. Her name's Jill Sumner Hayes. She was the founder. So that also allows me to have some sanity, giving up more money for a more balanced life by sharing that load with somebody that's kind of been there, done that. And then on the mental health side, I have an ice bath in my
Oh,
garage.
I gotta try that. It's so funny you said that. I've done the cryo, but I haven't done I want to get one of these ice baths at the house. You do it every day?
Not every day, but most days.
Yeah.
The studies are 11 minutes a week. For whatever reason, 11 minutes is what so, 3 or 4 times, depending on how many times, 3 or 4 times a week, depending on how many minutes. I have um, a sauna, like a dry sauna right there in my garage as well, which those things just to kind of like you get so stressed out. You go in an ice bath, you don't think about
Hmm.
35 degrees, you're just thinking about breathing. So
Right. Surviving.
different things that release all sorts of endorphins. Trying to hit the gym most days and eating healthy. I got my blood tested again today. I do it every other month just to see where my hormones are at and getting any sort of supplementation. So, your physical health directly relates to mental health. So doing all these I do a full light, a full body UV and red light, and every time I'm in the shower. So these
Mm.
little things that you're like, if everything's helping 1 to 3%, it adds up.
Yeah.
Uh, so I do spend a decent amount of my time kind of studying which supplements to take, which, you know, all of those different, I guess, biohacking of how to increase your endorphins and therefore increase your mood and
Yeah.
decrease stress.
Well, and I think it's great at a young age you've identified that this is really important and you're creating habits that you'll sustain. Because I think people run crazy and they do a lot of sprints, as you say, in their business for 10, 12 years. And then they're 45 and they wake up and they go, shit, I gotta, maybe I need to lose some weight, or maybe, and it's really hard at that point. It's much more difficult. So I think it's great. I commend you for starting early and thinking about yourself and thinking about kind of longevity of life. Because obviously, if you do everything right, you should live, you could live to 120. Who knows? I mean, the science is there. I don't know if you want to, but you probably could at some point.
Yeah, I take all sorts of pills in the morning, all the longevity pills and all that. But yeah, thinking of, if 90% of my time I'm kind of working the 9 to 5 and I completely unplug after 5 and I'm with my family and friends and I'm playing Fortnite at night like the nerd I am, or on the weekends, and then every, 4 to 6 months, it's like, hey, I'm going to put my head down and do a 2 to 3 week sprint that I'm working extra hard
Right.
to XYZ. I found that works really well for
Yeah. No, it's great. Well, thanks so much. Dirty Dough. Great. Everyone should check out, first of all, check out the website if you want to it's just an amazing, beautifully done website. Franchisee information is there if you're looking. Obviously entrepreneurship is something that I talk about a lot. It's been something that's been great for me and my family. So if you're looking, get some information, you can talk to other Dirty Dough franchisee owners, which is great that you can learn and ask some questions. So I recommend people, if they're looking for something like that, they're looking to get out of something they're not happy and they want a little bit of control in the entrepreneur side of their lives, check out the website. And Bennett, thank you so much for your time. What an amazing story. And I'm sure in like 3 years from now, I'll have you back on and you'll have a sellout of this big, someone's going to come in and buy you guys out, and we'll be cheering about that. And then you'll be telling me about how the next business you're getting into, because it's always like that. It never ends. You're going to find something else. You're going to say you're done, and then you'll find another business, another solution, another problem you'll try to fix. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
me. Thanks for having me on.